internet, man. I'll tell you what, that dang old internet, man. You just go on there and point and click it and talk about www. Call me, you got that.
For some reason or another, you sounded a little taller on radio.
Well, for my money, he's got all the facial characteristics of a criminal.
Now, here's your host, that gravy-sopping, crappie-flopping, stump-jumping, Bible-thumping, gun-toting, mater-growing son of a gun, the Backwoods Baptist himself, Pastor Harold Smith.
Welcome to the Backwoods Baptist Podcast. It is so good to have you on here today. I am excited about the topic because we're going to talk about two things I dearly love: the local church and barbecue joints. I love good barbecue. And when we talk about good barbecue, everybody has their favorite kind of barbecue, don't they? It's like, well, I like Alabama barbecue, or I only like Texas brisket. You know, barbecue brings out the opinions in people. Let me tell you something. The local church will bring out opinions in people, and I'm one of them. I got opinions on barbecue, and I got opinions on the local church. My topic today is this: how local churches and barbecue joints are a lot the same way, a lot like the same thing. Now, I know right off the bat, some of you may get offended at this podcast. Are you likening the Lord's bride to a place that serves pork? No. I'm telling you, the way that we understand good barbecue, the way that we understand the way that barbecue is prepared, what good barbecue is, the way that we can understand that will lap over into our understanding of a local New Testament Baptist church. And I say Baptist church because Baptist churches are independent and autonomous, and every Baptist church is a little bit different. Unless you're in one of those Baptist groups where everybody has to look exactly the same, most Baptist churches have some subtle nuances. You also might be a backwoods Baptist if your church has ever served smoked whole hog barbecue. That's right, the whole pig all at one time. I've been in church meetings where the hog was deboned, stuffed with sausage, sewed back up, and smoked to perfection. Looking at you, Indian Mission, and it was wonderful. So, knowing full well on the beginning, some of you are going to get offended. Let me just go ahead and get the commercial out of the way. I have written a couple of small booklets. The first one is the Bible, a book like no other. You can get this book absolutely free at the Backwoods Book Company. You just come in and ask for it. We have copies here. We just limit you to one per person. The second book that I've written, or booklet, is Biblical Evangelism, and it's called A Scriptural Case Against the Modern Street Preaching Movement. Both of those books are free of charge right here at the Backwoods Book Company. You don't live here. You say, Brother Harold, how could I get one? They're also available on Amazon, written by me, the Backwoods Baptist, Harold Smith. You can find them there. They're available on ebook, Kindle version. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. If you come into the bookstore and you say, hey, I listen to your podcast, I give you a free Backwoods Baptist or Backwoods Book Company refrigerator magnet. I know we bought those a couple years ago when the bookstore was just in the thinking kind of planning phase, and we always fail to give them away. So if you come in here and say, hey, I listen to the podcast, you will get a free refrigerator magnet. Now let's get on to the topic at hand. Barbecue. How do we understand local churches in reference to barbecue joints? Let me give you my expertise. In other words, let me offer you my credentials as someone who knows local churches and knows good barbecue and can talk about both in a rather intelligent way. And number one, let me tell it to you this way. I had another YouTube channel. It still exists. I just don't do much there. One of the things I did on that channel was I traveled the country in my preaching and vacation and everything, and I ate barbecue all around the country. I think I have reviewed something like 60 or 80 different barbecue restaurants. In reviewing them, I went in, I sampled their fare, I made a video on it, and I offered my opinion and my take on the barbecue itself. I did that in Alabama, South Carolina. I did it in Michigan. I did it all across the South, Arkansas, Oklahoma, all across Texas. Nebraska. I mean, I went literally everywhere. If there was a barbecue place there, I ate it. I ate World Champion barbecue. I ate barbecue you had to wade through trophies to get to the counter to order what you wanted. I know a lot about barbecue. I happen to have a smoker where it's big enough, I think I can smoke about 15 pork butts at one time. And I can turn out pretty good barbecue myself. As a matter of fact, when people say, where's the best barbecue? Some people will say, Harold makes the best barbecue. Eating a lot of barbecue, you kind of know what good barbecue is. Let's apply that to the church. Consuming a lot of preaching, fellowship, praying, singing. I know what a good church is. I've been in a few. I've pastored some. By being in a lot of churches, you tend to see things that work and don't work. By working with a lot of churches, preaching in a lot of churches, you tend to learn things you wouldn't learn if it was just you at your own church and you never went anywhere else. One of the things that kind of becomes detrimental to pastors is all they know is the way they do it there, where they're at. And when you have that mindset of, well, this is all we know, this is all we've done, you're missing a lot of things. It's not that the Bible's not complete and you can't learn how to do church. I'm saying there are things that happen within a church that I've learned other ways are better. I just didn't know it until I experienced it. Singing, for example. Let me tell you, if you want people to sing, you got to sing songs they know. If you want people to sing out loud, you got to sing songs they're comfortable with. I go into churches all the time where they say they want to sing a new song all the time, and everybody just kind of, because nobody feels confident to sing the song. If you go into a church full of old people and you stand up and say, let's sing Victory in Jesus, you're going to hear the loudest singing. How do I know that? I've been in a lot of churches. How do I know what good barbecue is? I've eaten a lot of good barbecue, and I've eaten a lot of bad barbecue. I'm qualified to talk about the subject of barbecue joints and local churches. So with that being said, how do they all go together? As a general rule, let me say this, it's not an absolute, but as a general rule, the best barbecue you will ever eat comes from a hole-in-the-wall place. They don't care. They don't care about the seats. They don't care about the tables. They don't care about the pictures on the wall. They don't care about the bumper music, the piano music that's played in the background. All they specialize in is smoked meat at perfection. You probably, if you've ever had good barbecue, some of you people are not backwoods Baptists, and bless your heart, you're trying to put all this together and you can't help it. But many of you will know right now, oh yeah, there's that place out on 218, out past the lake. It's just a little shack. And that guy gets up about 8 o'clock at night and starts building a fire, and he smokes pork and beef all night long and makes his own sausage, and he's sold out every day by 1 o'clock. And it ain't a great place to eat, and you kind of have to sit on park benches, and you're better off just to get it to go, cigarette ashes on the floor. Yeah, that's the kind of place that has awesome barbecue. You know what I'm talking about. Some of you hadn't been in enough churches to know the difference. A lot of times when it comes to the meat of the church, which is the preaching of the Word of God, the fellowship, the singing, the core things of church, they often take place in little out-of-the-way places. I hesitate to call any church a hole in the wall, but a lot of times they're off the beaten path. People have to drive to get there. People are not going there because it's convenient. They're going there because it's awesome. They're leaving for lunch early so they can get there in time to get a slice of brisket before it's sold out. Good churches are where people wake up in the morning excited because it's Sunday and we're going to church. A good barbecue joint is usually some off the beaten path, hole in the wall. They specialize in one thing, making great barbecue. Great churches specialize in one thing, glorifying God through the preaching of the Word, the fellowship of the saints, the corporate singing and praying of the people. When you find a church that majors on that, they don't care what kind of sanctuary they have. They don't care what's on the big screen. They don't care if they have anything for your kids. They don't care if they have a singles ministry, couples ministry, old folks ministry. They specialize in meat. That's usually the best. Now, Another thing we need to consider, national chains. National chains, not most of them serve average barbecue. It's just average barbecue. Go to Rib Crib. It's not awful barbecue, but it's average. You know, that is what it is. Go to Dickey's. Dickey's barbecue, you find them all across Texas and the South. It's average barbecue. When you go to a chain, a national chain, what they've done is they've systematized the process of producing the barbecued meat. And anybody that can work the program, work the process, can turn it out. Most of the time, the national chains are not smoking their meat on wood fire. They're smoking it on an electric fire with electric heating element that maintains an exact temperature. The wood was not cut down with a chainsaw and split by some fella and loaded on a 16-foot flatbed trailer and stacked up behind the restaurant. It was cut down and sent to some paper mill where it was pressed into pellets, and you don't really know what kind of wood it is or who cut it or where it came from or where it grew. You just trust that it's supposed to be hickory, and you throw it in this hopper, and it adds enough smoke to give you the desired flavor, and the electric element, it provides enough heat. And most churches are functioning that way. They're turning, it's not bad barbecue. Jesus is preached, singing is done, fellowship is had. But if you've had good, it's average. National chains also serve the most people. Most churches where most people attend is kind of like national chain barbecue. It's where most people go. A lot of times it's all people know. There's good Christians in these kind of churches. National chains are clean and predictable. When I walk into a Rib Crib, I know what the menu is. When I walk into a Dickey's, I know what the sauces taste like. It tastes like the sauce in the next town, in the next state. Anytime you go into a barbecue restaurant that's a chain and they're all connected and they all have the same flavors, you know what to expect. Most people going to the average church in America know exactly what to expect. They know exactly how it's going to be, and they're looking for something that tastes like the same barbecue they had back home. Most people don't eat at hole in the walls, but those that do know it's great. You can't get a brisket like this. You've never had sausage this way. You don't understand. You can't get this with electric smoke. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Most large churches tend to follow the national chain barbecue model. It's just true. I mean, there's a system for growing a church. There's books written on how to grow your church. All of them offer the same type program. You offer people what they want, they will come. Most people don't want strong doctrinal preaching. Most people don't want the singing of ancient hymns. Most people don't want long prayer services. Most people don't want devotion that takes you out of your comfort zone. Most people just want to come in and have a nice mild sauce, meat that's not too dry, predictable, just like the last barbecue place they ate at. They don't want some different spice. They don't want some different sauce. And most of your large churches are much like a national chain queue because that's what they do. Now, let me also give you another caveat when it comes to barbecue restaurants. A lot of times restaurants don't call themselves a barbecue restaurant, but they have barbecue on the menu. Woe unto you that get your barbecue at a place that's not a barbecue restaurant. Many times, restaurants are known for their... I remember going into a restaurant one time, and I said, what's the best thing here? It said barbecue, okay? I said, what's the best barbecue you got? And she said, well, that'd probably be our pulled pork baked potato. I said, what? She goes, oh, we got these great big baked potatoes, and we bake them till they're real soft, and then we smash them open, and we put lots of butter and sour cream on them and cheese on them, and then we sprinkle a little pulled pork on the top and give them a squirt of barbecue sauce. They're delicious. That's what everybody comes in here for. I'm like, okay, this ain't a barbecue joint. This is some kind of trendy restaurant where people come and get just a little sprinkling of barbecue. You see where I'm going with this, don't you? A lot of churches are kind of like the barbecue joints that don't major in barbecue. They also offer catfish. They also offer chicken fried steak. They also have a meatloaf on the menu. Listen to me. A lot of churches offer all sorts of things other than preaching, praying, and singing. There's nothing wrong with these things. But when you become more known for your catfish or your baked potato than the meat that's on the plate, you've ceased to be a barbecue joint. When you become more known for the other things, like many large churches do, we go there because the kids play on the youth interleague ball team. We go there because they have a singles ministry and I'm trying to find a husband. We go there because the church also has a gym, and if you're a member, you don't have to pay a membership to the gym. Well, that's not a good reason to go to church. That's not a good reason to pick your church. Let me say this as well. You don't go to a barbecue joint because they have chicken fried steak. You don't go there because they serve catfish. Good barbecue, that's all they have. That's all they have. Some of the larger joints offer all this other menu. Very rarely do you find a great barbecue restaurant that also has a fine dining feel to it. Now listen to me. I've been in some of those barbecue restaurants. If you're ever in Texarkana, Arkansas, Naaman's Championship Barbecue, they got a guy playing a grand piano in there. It's got a tile floor with brass rail trim up. It's a nice place, and their barbecue's phenomenal. Sometimes you find a large church with all the bells and whistles, and the pastor's a gospel preacher, and the people take the word of God seriously, and doctrine still matters. Rarely do you find that, and if you find it, you better sink your teeth into it and not let go, and don't go in there and mess it up, but learn from them and become one of them. The best barbecue restaurants don't have a large menu. The best barbecue restaurants have like 3 things, and that's all they have. I ate at a barbecue restaurant. All they had was a barbecue sandwich. All they cooked was pork. They had a chopped pork barbecue sandwich. Your options were hot or mild sauce. I said, what do you have for sides? Beans and coleslaw. I was like, well, give me one of each. The beans were awesome. The coleslaw was awesome. The pulled pork was awesome. The sauce was awesome. I said, well, they sell out every day by 2 o'clock. Why would they need to add potato salad? They sell out every day by 2 o'clock. The guy's making all he can make, and he's making one thing, and he's doing it all. Let me tell you something. Good churches are the same way. They have a small menu. They preach, they pray, they sing, they have fellowship. When they do those things well, people grow close together, fellowship is built, doctrinal uniformity takes place, people become true disciples of the word. You're not having to gimmick them or trick them or guilt them into coming to church. They're there because they want to be there. They're not there for this. They're not there for their kids. They're not there to get their wife off their back. They're there because the word of God is preached. It's a small menu, but it's done right. One of the best things that ever happened to me in the ministry was for God to overwhelm me and say, all right, Harold, you don't have time to do a bulletin. You don't have time to write an article every week. You don't have time to get on the internet and win debates on doctrine. You don't have time to do all this. All you have time to do is preach. Pastor, that's it. Man, when all you have time to do is the basics, you learn to do the basics real well. When somebody is so good at brisket, that's all they do is brisket, and they make a living doing brisket. Right here in Arkansas, not too far down the road, is Reed's Hometown Barbecue in Booneville, Arkansas. Little plug for Reed's. It is the best barbecue in Arkansas. It's better than everywhere else for a number of reasons. They are only open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday until they run out. You say, how can anybody be in business 3 days a week? When you're good, you can make all the money you need to live on and live a good life in 3 days. Why? Because you're doing it right. A lot of churches are so spread thin, trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to get in this ministry, trying to get in that ministry. And by spreading themselves out this way, they're doing a lot of things halfway. They're putting bad leaders in charge. They're trying to develop a ministry before they even have anybody to really operate it. But when you're doing it right, you don't have to do all these other things. You don't have to serve catfish to get people to come in on Friday night. They're there because you're doing it right. Rarely do you find great barbecue and nice dining. Rarely do you find a large church with great doctrinal preaching and true, genuine fellowship. Let's talk about one more thing, and then I want to give us 5 or 6 takeaways. Have you ever looked at a restaurant and it said under new ownership? A lot of times when the under new ownership is put in the window, it's because the old ownership is bad. I happen to be in the business, as far as local churches go, of being under new pastorate. I go to churches where it's been bad in the past and the church is in trouble. Now, I preach in a lot of good churches. I do revival meetings. I preach in Bible conferences. But usually when I go somewhere as an interim pastor, usually it's because they have an issue that can't be resolved, or they've got something that's interfering with their ability to find a new pastor or keep a pastor. So when you see that under new ownership, that usually means that things have been bad in the past. And they're trying to let the community know, hey, that guy's not here anymore. But if that church was wonderful and it says under new pastor, you have to go, whoa, wait a minute. A lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, when a good barbecue restaurant, the guy finally just says, look, I'm too old. My wife wants to live in Florida. We're going to have to sell out. By the way, I've eaten barbecue all over Florida. They have some good barbecue. I've eaten at some chains in Florida that's average barbecue. But when the owner says, hey, look, I've got to sell out. It's time to retire. I'm tired of coming home smell like hickory smoke every day. He sells it to somebody else who's looking at the business. And a lot of times the young guy's looking at it not for what it is. He's looking at it for what it can be. If it was already good, be careful of what you think it can be. Because if it was good before you got there and you think you're going to make it better, there's a high chance you're probably not experienced enough to make the right decisions to make it better. It usually goes the other way. It usually goes the other way. Listen to me. I've seen a lot of great barbecue joints change owners, and they're not in business anymore. I mean, some of the best barbecue I've ever eaten, the restaurant, if it would have just continued to use pecan wood, if it would have just continued to use the same recipe for the sauce. But the new owner came in and he's like, it costs a lot of money to get this certain kind of paprika to put in the sauce. Well, you can get paprika at Walmart. I'm not paying for that. Yeah, we were paying a lot of money for this certain kind of hog that had a certain kind of pork to meat to fat ratio. And it's just too much money. I'm just not going to spend it. I'm just going to get a regular old Packer pork shoulder. It's not going to be the same. These briskets are outrageous. We just going to start buying Packer briskets. It's not the same. When you start skimping on ingredients to save money, to make more money, to be more profitable, you run the risk of running off your longtime clientele. That happens in churches all the time. Sometimes the under new management sign works. The problem was the pastor. Sometimes the new pastor comes in and makes changes that he thinks are better that don't go over well in the congregation or the community, and it doesn't work. So when we talk about churches, some of the best barbecue is off the beaten path. Some of the best churches, you have to drive a little bit to get to them. National chains, average barbecue. Most churches, average Christianity. Not all. And not because you're in a big, large church, does that mean you're less of a Christian? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just talking in general terms as somebody that's eaten a lot of barbecue and been in a lot of churches. If you find a large church with a lot of bells and whistles and the core ingredients are still great, you better stay there. You better stay there and be a part of it and promote it and continue it. Because you rarely find both great barbecue and nice dining. It just doesn't happen a lot. And here's another thing. I talk to people all the time and they say, I don't pay for barbecue. It's too expensive. I just stay at home, cook it cheaper. Well, there's a lot of people like that. Say, I don't go to church. I just read my Bible at home. It's a lot easier. The only problem with that is you don't have the authority to say, I am going to be my own pastor. I am going to be my own deacon. I am going to be my own Sunday school teacher. I am going to fellowship with myself, and my kids are going to make up my congregation. The Bible knows nothing of a church that's one family. You have a responsibility, but explicitly, you have 76 verses in the New Testament that tell you what your responsibility is to one another. We call them the one another passages. You can't fulfill the one another passages and stay home by yourself and do it your way. You can't cook your own barbecue at the house and say, I have the best barbecue. You may have it. But when it comes to church and barbecue, you have to go somewhere to get it. You have to gather with the saints on the Lord's day. All right, so what do we take away from this? I've been rambling on here for 20, 25 minutes, talking about how barbecue joints and churches are a lot alike, and I think I've made that case. Some of you have already turned me off. That's okay. For those of us that are still here, I got some good information for you. Let me give you 7 good takeaways. Number 1, drive to get the good stuff. If you're looking for a church and you've got a national chain right there in town, 2 blocks down the road, if it's just average, keep looking. If you have to drive out of town, if you have to go to the next town over, if you have to go out in the country to find somewhere where it's properly cooked, it's properly seasoned, even if they don't have all the bells and whistles, drive to get the good stuff. It's worth it. Number 2, meat is better than atmosphere. Many times in my ministry, I've tended to not have the great atmosphere. I've tended not to have all the bells and whistles. I've never pastored a church that had 27 ministries. We've tended to have just the basics. Meat, baked beans, coleslaw. We just tried to do those as best we could. Meat is better than atmosphere. Why? Because meat carries you through. Go to a church where the preaching, the praying, the singing, and the fellowship are real. They may not have a youth group. They may not have projector screens. You may have to hold an old hymnal that's fallen apart and been held by 5 generations before you. That is far better to be in that group with a group of people that know and love each other than it is to go where they have everything in its place, all nice and neat, fine music, fine tables, nice dishes, everything's in order, and the food's average. Meat's better than atmosphere. Go where the core ingredients of the church are right. Number 3, new owners seldom improve it. Many churches come to me and they say, Brother Harold, if we just had this kind of preacher, it would solve everything. No, it wouldn't. Brother Harold, if we just had this, all of our problems. No, that's not it. It's not simply a change. And I'm not saying the pastor's the owner, but the pastor should take up most of the time when you're together. If you meet for an hour and 30 minutes, he should be talking to you for 45 of that, I would say. I don't say the pastor owns the church, the Lord owns the church, his church. You know what I'm saying. Just simply saying under new management is not the problem. It's not one guy that sunk your church, and it's not one guy that's going to turn it around. It has to be a concerted effort within the church to see it change. The problem with the church is not the pastor. He has a big part to do with it. But just saying getting a new pastor is going to fix it all, it's not. There's got to be a fundamental change if it's broken. If it's not broken, you need to be careful when you get a new pastor. Just like if it's not broken, you need to be careful with the new ingredients you bring into a church that works. Look, if people are buying out your pork every day, don't go getting a different kind of pork to make a few extra bucks. If people are fighting over the last bottle of sauce you have, don't go trying to create a new sauce. When it comes to barbecue and it comes to church, stay with what worked. Stick with the program. It got you there, it'll get you there. Old Herb Revis, the preacher down in Jacksonville, Florida, used to say, if you build your church on hot dogs, somebody else will steal your church with a T-bone steak. And he was right. Whatever you did to build the church is what you've got to do to keep the church. If the church is built on the basics of Christianity and gathering together in a corporate church setting, you'll do fine if you just keep doing that. Number 4, church, do the basics right. Your problem, you don't need a youth group. You don't need all this until you've got the preaching is empowered by the Holy Spirit. The preaching is biblically sound, biblically rich. It's based on the text. It's textual preaching. It can be expository preaching. It can be topical preaching. A lot of people say, well, if it ain't expository, it ain't preaching. But we call Charles Spurgeon the Prince of Preachers, and he was not expository. It needs to be textual preaching. The text needs to be the thrust of the message. Do that right. Get that right. Get singing right. Man, if your congregation is just sitting out there mumbling words with people up there doing guitar solos and some loud band, you don't need a youth group. You need that fixed. You don't need a singles ministry. You need that fixed. You don't need to get involved in the church softball league. You need to get that fixed. Do the basics right. Too many times, struggling barbecue joints don't fix their potato salad, don't address their bad baked beans, and they think that adding fried pies to the menu is going to fix everything. I don't want to come eat your rotten potato salad just to have a fried pie when I'm done. It's probably just as bad as your potato salad. Church, do the basics right. Get the prayer meeting right. Prayer meeting shouldn't be some boring, drug-out, dull thing where we just mumble along and pray for grandma's ingrown toenail and go home. Get the basics of church right. Now, number 5, talking about some takeaways. Good barbecue is not produced by going around and watching seminars on how to barbecue. Pastor, you're not going to go to some conference and learn how to be a better pastor. Preacher, you're not going to go take some expositor's class and instantly become a preacher. One of the worst preachers I ever heard had a master's degree from a reputable seminary in preaching, of all things. He had a master's degree in preaching, and I don't still to this day, with 7 or 8 years to think about it, know what he was talking about that day. Good barbecue only comes from building lots of fires. The guys that are really good at barbecue do it a lot. They've done it a lot in the past. And if you're not regularly smoking meat and barbecuing meat, you start to slip. I haven't cooked any barbecue in 3 or 4 months. I've been too busy. I haven't had time. But when I'm cooking a lot of barbecue and I'm regularly feeding preachers and churches and preparing meat for large groups, I'm telling you, I can, from my recliner in the living room, I can look through the window and see the amount of heat waves coming out of the top of the smoker stack. And I can say, I need to go put a log on there. Or I can look at that and say, you know what, I got plenty of time. That's still putting out plenty of heat. I can tell that by looking at it. But if I haven't been doing it lately, I need to go out there and check the temp. I need to go out there and look and see how hot it is in the smoke box. This is how preaching works. This is how singing works. You don't go out and hire a professional singer to fix your church's lack of singing. You teach the church how to sing by repetition, singing over and over and over. You don't teach people how to pray by giving them a book on prayer and expect them just to bow their head and close their eyes and take off. They need to be around people that know how to pray. And over time, they can lose that. I've had people that came up to me and said, my goodness, I forgot how we prayed. And I didn't know that, but I hadn't prayed with them in a long time. I was still praying the way I was praying, but they weren't. So to them, it was like back to the basics. Good barbecue only comes from lots of fires. Don't sit around and watch YouTube videos on how to do church. Start doing church. Beg God to help you. Evaluate the process. Look at your situation. Are we doing this right? Can we do it better? These are all the things that need to be considered. And just do it. Preacher, start preaching. Find an opening. Go to the nursing home. See if they'll let you preach on Sunday. Find a place where a congregation will gather and let you preach. And then let some people hear you preach. And then let them say, hey, man, your fire's getting cold. Hey, you're smoking that way too long. Most preachers would be better off to shorten their sermons. Just look at everything and go, is all this necessary? Does all this get us to the end game? Some of our best preaching is 25-minute sermons. Oh, Brother Harold, I couldn't even define a doctrine in 25 minutes. That's why people are snoring while you preach. How long does it take you to read 3 chapters of Matthew? Explicitly 5, 6, and 7. Greatest preacher to ever live preached that. I'm here to tell you, it's not the length of your sermons. Good barbecue only comes from lots of fires. You got to do it a while. Takes time. Number 6. I've got 7, so hang in there. Drive slower to work if you're heading in this morning. Barbecue differs by region. You need to know that. Not every church is going to be like your church. I have people that tell me, now I don't like North Carolina barbecue. I don't like that vinegar sauce. I don't like Georgia barbecue. I don't like that mustard sauce. I don't like Texas brisket. It's got that real peppery bark on it. I don't like Kansas City ribs. They're too sweet. Okay, I get it. But when you're looking for a church, the best barbecue joint in your area may be Kansas City style brisket. The best barbecue joint in your area may be whole hog like they have in North Carolina. You may have a preference that you like it East Coast style, or you like it Alabama style, or you like that white sauce they put on chicken at Big Bobby Gibson's. I do too, but here's what I've learned to do. I've learned to appreciate each style of barbecue by its region. So in other words, when I go to Georgia and I eat their sweet mustard sauce, I compare it not to a Texas sauce, not to a North Carolina vinegar sauce, not to a sweet Kansas City sauce. I compare it to other Georgia sauces. Their sauce is not as good at Biggin's as it is in Jefferson at the train station. You have to look at these different places. You're not comparing apples to apples. If you say, I don't like the way Vance Havner preaches compared to, take your pick. Well, Vance Havner grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. Appreciate Vance Havner for who Vance Havner is. Appreciate the barbecue in your region for what it is. Just because you've had one vinegar sauce you didn't like doesn't mean that you haven't had Rodney Scott's yet. His is the best I've ever had. But Rodney Scott started in a barbecue joint his dad started where they cooked whole hogs. They had white bread, whole hogs, one sauce. They sold out every day they opened. Find barbecue by its region. Find a church in your region. Look, you may be in a region of the country where they're a little louder. You may be in a region of the country where they sing a little more contemporary. Appreciate it for what it is. Find the best version in your region. Number 7 ties right in with number 6. Barbecue differs by region. Number 7, good meat is universal. Good meat is universal. I can tell you when a brisket is undercooked. They didn't hit 206 degrees, or they didn't keep it at 204 long enough. Good meat is universal. I can tell you when a pulled pork has been cooked till it's easily pulled. I can tell you when it's been cooked too long and it's mush. And then I can tell you when some idiot threw it in an oven and then chopped it with a machete and called it pulled pork. If you can't pull it apart, it's not pulled pork. If it bounces back like a rubber band, it's rubber band pork. Whether you cooked it in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, or even way up in northern Michigan. I'm talking about northern Michigan, top of the mitten. I had good barbecue there. Good meat's universal. I don't have to add the sauce. What does that mean? That means I can go to church over here and they can pray differently than me. but I still recognize good Christian fellowship and Bible preaching when I see it. This guy may be a little louder than the last pastor I sat under. This guy may be a little more doctrinal than the last guy I sat under. He may be a little more precise. This guy may be a little bit looser. But when I look overall at the body of Christ, here's what I see. I see a church that loves each other. I see a church that loves the lost and is outward focused as much as it's inward focused, because they know they have the cure for the sin that plagues all mankind. If I look at a church and I say, oh man, that's got the right sauce, but then you get in there and the meat's all dried out. No. You're not going for the sauce. You're going for the meat. The meat's universal. Barbecue's different by region. Find a church where you are that is good on the basics. And if you're a pastor, major on the basics. People may come to you and say, hey, you need to have this, you need to have that, unless y'all have pony rides, unless your youth group goes to the beach on summer church camp, we're not coming here. Okay, go somewhere else. If you're picking a barbecue restaurant based on the chicken fried steak, you don't know what barbecue is. Good meat, universal. Hey, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to demean the church, but the way we treat barbecue by region, by the time it takes to produce it, by all the different places that claim to be good at it, we ought to be able to take that same scrutiny, look at churches and find a good one. Hope you're in a good church. If you are, stay put. Good barbecue's hard to find. See you on the next one.